Yo, good afternoon, everybody. How you doing? Welcome to Mastering the Laws of Attraction. I'm your host, Coach Renz, and today I want to tell you guys why your religion that you're still believing in was, is, and will always be controlled by the state as long as you allow it. And at the end of this video, I'm going to explain to you and break down why the God that they have given you, not the true God, is an evil man-made type of God that will keep you divided amongst one another. So let's get started first. If you've seen my video on the origins of Judaism, Christianity, and religion and Islam, then you know that I detail out how the state of Rome, how the state of the Arab nation created each individual religion, and the state of the Greeks created the Judaism. So we have the Ptolemies who created Judaism by creating the Hebrew, by creating the stories of the Septuagint, so that they can then have a religion, but that religion is established by the state. Now I want you to think about something. God in all his infinite wisdom said that I have written my words on the hearts of man. Therefore, it is not necessary for the state to establish a religion, but the state establishes a religion in order to maintain a certain level of control over the people. You see, when the Ptolemies needed to control the Palestinian Canaanite people, then they created the state, and they created the state religion that became Judaism. When the Messianic Jews kept revolting against Rome, then Vespasian initiated the beginnings of what would become the more passive version of Judaism, and we now call Christianity, that was formalized by Constantine. So both times established by the state, not by the people. Then the last one is Islam, which was first tried to be established by Abdul Ibn Sahi. I keep messing up that name, but first tried to be established by him, but then the person who conquered him, Abdul Malik, realized that the potential of what he was trying to do and established the Islamic State over top of the Arab nation. Both times, all times, these things are created by the men who were in charge of the government. And then even when the governments failed, as in with the Roman government, the Vatican became the state. The Vatican had armies, they had generals. Their bishops and cardinals were generals who led the Vatican armies, and they established the state religion and spread it through and conquered those who would refuse, and then brought underneath them the other kingdoms in order to make sure that they still established that same religion through the state. Even with the Protestant, King James, Church of England, it was established through the state. America, in the Constitution, Declaration of Independence, God is established within each one of those. So although we speak of religious freedom, the religious freedom truly aren't there because the state still controls it. These higher leveled pastors, bishops, whatever, still go to the White House. They still go to Congress. They still go to the Vatican. All these people still go there. And even in Buddhism, the Chinese government has said that the next Dalai Lama will be established by the Chinese government, not by the Buddhist temples. Those are the heads of the Buddhist temples. So because of their issues with Tibet. So every time it's established by the state. Now what comes out of that? What comes out of the establishment by the state is the Septuagint, is the Apocrypha, is the Bible, is the Vedics. All your writings are then established by people who are working at the behest, at the benefit of the state. So if they're working at the benefit of the state, then of course they are not working for the benefit of the people, but more for the state, the government, those in charge, for the emperor, the king, the legislature. That's who they're working for. They're not working for the people. If you was working for the people, then you will find that nice old lady. You will find that good shepherding man. You will find those people who are wise and understanding the will of the Creator and how everything in nature revolves perfectly based on how the Creator put it into play, put it into action. But those aren't the people called up. The people who are called up are those who have vital interest in the continuation of the states. Your Philos of Alexander, your Josephus Ben Arimathea, your Eusebius, your people like this are the ones who are called up in order to establish what the people will believe. And then oftentimes when you look at the history, that establishment is first done through threat and violence, through murder, through maiming, through killing, through the burning of all other information and destruction of all other information. So it is systematically done in a way that you will not know, and at the threat of murder. Now, thousands of years have passed, well, hundreds of years have passed. So that thread is no longer needed because you've been indoctrinated into the way that they want you to go. If a new religion truly wanted to come up that was controlled by the state, they would have to force it upon you. Now, once that force is over, then 4 or 5 generations down the line, it will just be what it is that they believe in and grow up believing in. So you don't have to force it. Think about slavery in America. It was beaten into the slaves initially, but now you willingly will follow this religion because that's what your grandparents and parents before them believed in. But the forcing of it, the pushing of it doesn't have to occur anymore. And I'm not just picking on that level. I mean, you go to any country where a new regime comes in, the initial deal is they force it. The Greeks first forced their way of life on people in India and Kashmir and Egypt. And then after years and years and decades, generation and generation, they don't have to do that anymore. It just became a part of life, a part of society. So if you research your history, you'll find that your state created your religion. Now, within creating that religion, what they must also create is conflict. They can't have you believing in a religion and then you agree to everything and everybody come to an agreement. If everybody's in agreement, then that means that the people can rise up against you. So there must be conflict, there must be differences, there must be opposing views and opposing thought processes, and there has to be something that causes you to fight over the small things. Well, the first way that this is done is by creating a God that is full of conflict themselves, that is full of contradictions themselves. I mean, let's think about it. And I know I'm not just picking on Christians and Jews and Islamic people, but I mean, they're a primary, so I'm gonna use their information. And when you look at the Old Testament, you know, you see a God who's jealous and angry. You see a God who says that I want my people to stay separate from everybody else. Don't marry foreign women. Be different. Be separate. That even though I created all the people, I don't like them over there. So stay separate from them. And matter of fact, when you go into their encampments, kill all the men, kill all the women who's had babies and have known a man, kill all the young babies and all the boys, but keep the young virgin girls for yourselves as wives. But you're supposed to not take on foreign women, but you're going to take these virgin girls as your wives, foreign women. But at the same time, you're killing, maiming, and destroying down to the smallest baby boy. So that doesn't sound like a God of love to me. You know, when there was in the wilderness for 40 years, they fought and maimed and killed millions of people during this time frame. Doesn't sound like love. When Moses went into Egypt, and I'm not validating the story's real or not, but when Moses went into Egypt, he was told that, look, I'm going to harden Pharaoh's heart. So does that mean that if he had told Pharaoh that the first time, that Pharaoh would have let them go, but God had to harden their heart? Because maybe Pharaoh would have said, okay, fine, y'all can leave. You know, but this guy looked for conflict, wanted to, you know, I need to do my plagues. I need to hurt these people. I need to bring down and rain fire. I need the frogs. I need the water turn to blood. I need this. And I know some of you right now are going to say, well, God needed to demonstrate his power. But if he was demonstrating his power and hardened Pharaoh's heart, then why didn't Egypt convert? Why didn't Egypt say, oh, wow, look at the power of this God. We must now convert. But no, instead, he maintained the hardness of Pharaoh's heart. I mean, 1 plague should have done it. 2 plagues would have been enough. 3 plagues, you're starting to get into overkill. But he kept Pharaoh's heart hardened. And if he did that, then he just wants conflict. This man-made creation of God just wants to have conflict within the people. Just the idea of saying that I'm going to, out of all my children, I'm going to select these 1 or 2, this one group, and say that you are my children, and to hell with the rest of everybody else, and literally to hell with them, then that you are inspiring conflict. And that's what the example of this man-made created version of God is a God of conflict, a God of war, a God of separation, and putting one person above the other, of saying that you're greater than your brothers and sisters. What kind of God would do that? A one that says that when I come back, I'm only coming back for my children, for those who know me. But how can you come back for only those who know you when there are people who are alive today who have never even heard of you? And I know some of you right there are going to say that, well, God will make a way for anyone who longs for the Bible to know God. No, There are countries where you just won't know. There are tribes who live in so remote places that they will never know that a man just died, a woman just died right now in some remote village, town, top of a mountain somewhere, and they've never heard of Yeshua or Abraham or Muhammad or nobody. They only have known what it is that they have known for generations where they are, but they were loving and peaceful. They had great families. They respected the world, respected the earth. They did wonderful things. They were probably better people than most people are, but yet we've created this separation that they are going to hell, and they've never even had an opportunity to even know who your God is. So how can you actually believe that? I know people teach you that in your churches, but how can that be? How can that happen? You see, people will say that because at that time frame back then, they thought that the world was just right there, not realizing that the world was full of people all over the place. And then by divine discovery, they had the right to destroy and kill and maim native people, right? What kind of conflicted God is this? It's not a God of love. You cannot claim that to be love. If a person did this in our planet today, if a person did that in America or most countries to their children, to their neighbors, did the things that the Bible talks about, we will have them incarcerated and probably given the death penalty. But as people, we know that we wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that to your children. You wouldn't do that to your family. You wouldn't tell your brothers and sisters that you're no longer my family simply because you don't believe the same thing I believe. You wouldn't do that. They're still your family. You may not, you still love them. You still show them love. But what you're telling me is that this God of the Torah, Bible, and Quran cannot show that kind of love for his children. I'm going to throw you something a little more of a curveball. So according to the story, which is not in your Bible, but you have excerpts or quotations of it because it comes from the book of Enoch. According to the book of Enoch, which your Bible mentions, your Quran mentions, well, actually the book of Enoch is in the Quran for the most part. You're saying that the first children of God, the angels, warred against God and were cast down. So you sin every day. You go against God every day. You blaspheme against God constantly. But you have methods of forgiveness. But the angels that went against him one time has no way of redemption. It doesn't sound like a good God. It sounds like a very vindictive, holding a personal grudge kind of God. Doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. Because if God is all-knowing, all-loving, all-present, all-powerful, then as much as he's made a way for us to reconcile ourselves to him, then should not all his creation be able to reconcile themselves back? I know many of you are not going to like that. It's going to like throw you way off, because how can Satan and his demonic demons have a way to redeem themselves with God? Well, think about it. You've done worse than they probably did. You've said worse. You've believed worse. You've committed worse than what they probably did. So even if you don't, and if you don't believe all that kind of stuff happening, don't even worry about it. But I'm just saying, I mean, come on, man. What kind of God is this that holds a grudge, but you're told to not let the sun go down on your anger, but the sun been going up and down, up and down, up and down, and God has maintained his anger? Doesn't sound like a loving God to me. Not a kind of God that I would ever worship, and I don't worship that kind of God. You know, my God is all loving. My God says that for all his creation, he has made a way for them to be reconciled back. And in one of those, it's just a matter of knowing yourself. Know thyself. Ancient wisdom known all over the world throughout all times. To know yourself is to know God. But the more you know who you are, then the more you connect with God. And then when you do, you can't treat your fellow man poorly. You can't treat the person next to you, poorly. You can't beat and take and steal and murder the next man or woman, because you wouldn't want that to happen to you, so you don't treat them that way. And that's the idea. That's the loving God. Now, just because the state grabbed control of the doctrine, grabbed control of the text, grabbed control of what Christianity was originally called, the way, and the Tao call it the way, and everybody in history, the Aboriginals called it the way, the Hopi Indians and every other Native American called it the way. Everybody always called it the way. But just because they grabbed hold of the way and forced you through murder and bloodshed to believe that this is the truth, the way and the light, you don't have to accept it. That time is over when you are corrupted. You have to be forced that if you believe something else, that they will murder you. That time is gone. That time is past. You have the ability to believe as you choose now. So look at what's real, what happened, and say, is this acceptable? Look at how God is portrayed in your book and say, is that acceptable of a loving God? Would my loving God make it so that people have no opportunity to reconcile? Or would he make it so that everybody have the opportunity to reconcile? Would only a special group be able to reconcile? Or will everybody be able to reconcile if we are all his creation? Ask that question. Ask that question. And I want to just really quick, I had one of my people who I've been talking to, coaching for years and years. I told her 2 years ago that stop believing that God is in control of every aspect of your life, that he's down here hanging over you like Geppetto and you're Pinocchio. You know, you don't have strings attached to you. That you make decisions every day, and your decisions determine the outcome of your life every day. The executable action that you take today will determine the results that you get tomorrow. How well you execute, the way you execute, who's involved with the execution of your daily life. Every decision will determine the outcome of your life. God is not turning you left and right. He is not treating you like Pharaoh and hardening your heart and treating you like Pharaoh and making you decide what you're going to do. You have freedom of will, freedom of choice, so you can make decisions to be the causal factor and have the effects on your life that you choose. So in all that I've said today, realize that you are the decision maker, that you are the causal effect of everything that happens in your life. You are the actionable point of every decision and everything that occurs in your life. And the moment you decide that you are going to know truly the love of God, know truly the love of yourself and your love of fellow man, truly know that you are connected to all things and everyone, that you are not separated by anything, that we are all one people, truly under the protection of God, but we have to make our own decisions. So I just want to give you guys that last little part. Y'all have a great day. I hope that this blesses you. If you have negative comments in the bottom, really just keep it to yourself.